Welcome everyone to the TM Spiritual Knowledge channel. Here is the story of Vinya Hill's near-death experience. After her heart stopped, her soul traveled to other dimensions, where she met her guiding angel and received what she describes as the greatest gift. She has returned to share the details of her journey with us. Vinya shares her story. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. As a child, I was introverted and dreamed of becoming a renowned ballet dancer. My parents were hardworking middle-class people who sent me to a public school and later a Catholic school, but they didn't have any strong religious background or specific beliefs. In my senior year of high school, my friends and I decided to go on a summer trip abroad. The question was, where? We chose Italy. I was thrilled because I had always dreamed of traveling to a European country. I was over the moon with excitement. My parents encouraged the trip and even covered the expenses, especially when they learned that the trip would be supervised by tour guides. That was important because we were a group of teenagers and it was my first trip abroad. I was 17 years old. I was so excited that I couldn't sleep, which later became a problem. I kept imagining all the scenarios I would face in Italy and didn't sleep at all, not even on the plane. By the time we landed, I was completely exhausted. It was morning when we arrived at the airport in Italy. It felt like I was on another planet, as I had never experienced other cultures before. I was very tired and decided to take some vitamins my mother had given me. I also took some energy pills, which contained a high dose of caffeine. I used to rely on them during my studies to boost my energy, but I didn't take them correctly this time. I took an overdose, swallowing them like candy. After meeting our tour guide and loading our luggage onto the bus, I started feeling some changes in my body. I sensed that something was wrong. The first thing I felt was a tingling under my skin, and my heartbeat began to change. It was a small warning of what was to come. The bus was still moving, and we hadn't reached our destination yet. I remember leaning slightly to one side when my heart started pounding so intensely that I could hear it. I don't know if anyone else has ever experienced this feeling. It was incredibly strange. Even if someone had shouted in my face, I wouldn't have heard them, because the only sound I could hear was my heartbeat. I kept wondering what was happening. At one point, my heart rate peaked and then started slowing down significantly. That's when I felt overwhelming fear. I clearly remember the moment my heart stopped completely. It happened suddenly and terribly, followed by silence. It was the most terrifying moment of my life, and at the same time, I left my body. It happened instantly, without any loss of memory. I could see my body and had a panoramic view from every angle. Strangely, I could see my body but didn't immediately comprehend that I had died. I was looking at myself lying there. It took me a moment to recognize myself because seeing the body from an external perspective is entirely different from seeing it in a mirror. When I examined the situation closely, I realized it was my body, yet I felt no attachment to it. It was like looking at molded clay or a doll. I was trying to understand what had just happened because I didn't feel dead. I hadn't lost consciousness to transition into death. I kept thinking, I can't be dead. I feel more alive and vibrant than ever before. I was overwhelmed with new and incredible sensations, as though I had gained extraordinary strength and invincible abilities like movie superheroes. At the same time, I was seeing the physical world in a way I had never dreamed of before. I could see things with unimaginable clarity, as if I had a powerful microscope to observe every detail. I noticed how physical objects were actually transparent and less dense, and I could perceive all their layers and details. The solid materials in the bus appeared as waves of energy surrounding me. I will never forget the metal bar at the front of the bus, the one people hold on to when preparing to get off. There was energy emanating from it, energy coming from this inanimate object. It was astonishing. At one point, the bus driver shouted angrily about the traffic congestion, which caught my attention. I was able to see his entire physical body and delve into his memories and emotions, even though I didn't speak Italian. I learned that he was ill and saw other details about his life. I discovered that he was unfaithful to his wife and had children with several women. I could see all the energy emanating from him and his personality. There was energy radiating from every person on the bus. At the same time, I looked at my own slumped body and saw that the energy coming from it was very weak. At one moment, I felt a force guiding me and gently pulling me toward it. I didn't resist and surrendered to it, leaving the bus entirely. This presence transported me to a pure white realm. I don't know where it was because it had no boundaries or walls. It was simply a world of absolute whiteness, a pure white unlike anything I had ever imagined. I was aware that there was a being who had brought me here, but their identity wasn't clear to me. It felt like meeting a very kind stranger, someone you can talk to, with a warm and friendly interaction, but without any introduction. This being wasn't entirely unfamiliar. I felt as though I had known them for a long time, and they knew everything about me. Yet, I couldn't pinpoint who they were. I was in the company of this extraordinarily kind presence, who radiated energy toward me constantly. I felt that they loved me unconditionally, just as I was, without judgment or expectations. Instinctively, I knew I could trust them. They didn't interfere in my affairs or impose anything on me, but allowed me the freedom to explore this world of infinite whiteness. It was a complete union and immersion of my being with this world, and I did not want to be anywhere else. It felt like returning to my true home. Within this world, I could see astonishing realms and connect with various beings. I experienced a tremendous flow of information from different dimensions of existence. Believe me when I say that what I remember is just a tiny fraction of the full truth, and what I can describe is even smaller. The information wasn't just abstract thoughts, it was imbued with color, emotions, and sound, and I perceived it directly. This is how I received knowledge from the being I encountered, who revealed themselves to be my companion in life, what we might call a guide. I remember they showed me some details about my life. For instance, they revealed small things I had stolen as a teenager. They were minor thefts, but they were not good actions. Feeling at ease with them, I shared my deep desire to become a famous ballet dancer. They gently explained the whole truth to me. I hadn't put in the necessary effort to achieve that goal, or pursued it as seriously as I should have. The energy required to reach that goal simply wasn't there. I should have worked harder. However, I came to understand that being a famous ballet dancer was never part of my path or purpose in life. I realized that many of the decisions I had made weren't mere coincidences or fleeting ideas. They were steps along a path I was destined to follow. I understood that the soul is the highest aspect of our being, and that I was now in the presence of my soul in heaven. It was like meeting another person you deeply love, but in reality, it was me, my pure and radiant self. That's why I say that in life, we are merely a spark of our true essence. The soul never fully manifests or leaves that realm. The soul exists on a level that cannot be divided or fragmented, but it sends forth manifestations to represent it, and we are one of those manifestations on earth. My encounter with my soul was a divine and indescribably beautiful gift. In that realm, we are connected to everything. There are no directions like up or down, right or left, because the space there is vast. I didn't perceive space as a void, as we do when using a telescope. Instead, I could see between its layers, witnessing parts teeming with life that we cannot observe in the physical world. I saw spheres of energy moving through space, traveling in different directions, and it was clear that they possessed consciousness and a specific purpose. I found myself thinking, "Oh my God, they are beings just like us, existing in this universe alongside us." I wondered whether they experienced emotions like humans. These beings belonged to an advanced civilization from other dimensions, moving through space in perfect harmony. It was a breathtaking sight. Then I found myself in a beautiful garden where life seemed to flow through every part of it. There were countless types of magnificent plants, unlike anything I could have imagined, some of which I had never seen before on Earth. I interacted with those plants and flowers and experienced what I can only describe as the most exquisite spiritual dance with one of the flowers. I cannot describe that flower or define it as either a person or a plant, because it resembled nothing I had ever seen before. We danced together in perfect harmony and unity. This filled me with a profound love for life and completely transformed my perspective on existence and life in general. I went from being a simple teenager from Philadelphia on a school trip to Italy to someone who had traveled across the universe on a much greater and deeper journey. I had seen a completely different world, another dimension of existence I never knew was there. Then I asked my spiritual guide, "How should I live now? What should I do after all this? How can I reach that level?" I received a simple yet profoundly loving answer. Keep living, be kind, and enjoy the life you find yourself in. It wasn't just words, but a guiding energy that I have carried with me ever since. It was a lesson I've never forgotten, and I strive to cherish every moment of life, work with focus, and avoid wasting time. I wasn't given a choice to stay or return. All I remember is passing through something like a portal that seemed transparent and light at first, but gradually became denser as I re-entered the material world. It felt as though I was moving through thick mud or heavy water, with a sensation that was overwhelmingly constricting and heavy beyond words. After that, I began to regain awareness of my body. It wasn't easy. I had to reconnect piece by piece to my limbs, arms, and legs. Then I heard my heart beat again, but this time it was steady, not terrifying as it had been before, but normal and rhythmic. At that moment, I knew my body had indeed died, and my return to it had brought it back to life. I didn't feel like myself. It was as if I were trying to move a puppet, as though this body wasn't mine, and I was blind. Eventually, I managed to move slightly, regaining consciousness and opening my eyes, though my vision was blurry. Over time, my sight fully returned, and I felt like a stranger inside this body, imprisoned in this life, because when I was in the other dimension, I was free, unbounded by anything in the universe. No one on the bus noticed what had happened to me. My friends had no idea that I had died and come back. I didn't care about that. I was simply trying to adjust to being in my body again and to this new sensation. I sat there, reflecting on everything that had happened, feeling a deep longing for the love I had been surrounded by, a love that surpasses any ordinary kind of love. The only word I can use to describe it is divine love. It had nothing to do with any religion. There was nothing religious about it. It was simply an extraordinary, transcendent love. I still long for that feeling and carry it with me, but it's not the same as it was. It's just a memory I recall from time to time. Of course, I couldn't find anyone I could talk to about what happened, knowing how my friends think. If I told them, they would probably laugh and say, "Well, you're hallucinating, we didn't think you were into drugs." So I kept everything to myself. I remember spending the rest of the trip avoiding everyone and walking alone in all the places we visited. I needed isolation, to be alone with my thoughts, to keep reflecting on what had happened. Even after returning from Italy, I couldn't tell my parents or anyone else. I tried going to college but ended up dropping out after a year without achieving anything. I didn't have a real sense of purpose. Even though I had experienced something profoundly spiritual, I couldn't decide what to do with myself. I felt my goals in life were insignificant compared to what I had seen on the other side. Knowing there was so much more beyond this life left me feeling disheartened and drained my ambitions. One day my father said to me, "It doesn't matter what you do, but you have 30 days to decide." That pushed me to make a quick decision, and the easiest option at the time was to join the military. That's what I did. I served for 10 years in the military. At times, the strictness of the system, the demands of military life, and the responsibilities of motherhood and managing a home pushed my near-death experience to the back of my mind. I didn't have much time to reflect, organize my thoughts, or make sense of it all. It took me years to fully process and understand the experience. It wasn't something simple I could put together quickly. It was more like piecing together fragments over time. One of the main things I've learned is that life isn't just a series of random coincidences, nor is it merely luck. Everything is pre-planned, yet we still have the freedom to make choices that ultimately lead us to what I call the soul's mission, the primary purpose of our physical and earthly existence. Life will naturally guide you in that direction, often without you realizing it, because there are certain experiences we want to have or things we need to heal. This is not our first time experiencing earthly life. We have a persistent curiosity and constant desire to learn certain lessons or correct certain things, which is why we return. Someone once asked me, "Is this life real, or is it just an illusion?" I answered, "It is very real, like playing a role in a theatrical performance, but one we take seriously and from which we expect results." This understanding has helped me a lot in overcoming the challenges I've faced in life. There is a current of love driving everything, even when we don't realize it. Love is the true foundation of our existence. It may not always appear in a beautiful way, but it manifests in various forms. For example, a parent's discipline toward their children may seem harsh, but love is always behind our actions. It is the cohesive force that makes everything function. If you can understand that your essence is not separate from the spiritual world, and that you are a small part of a greater truth, you will realize that you are never alone. If you benefited from this episode, please don't forget to like and share your support. Thank you for your kind attention, and see you next time.